All right. Long time no hear from, huh? Saturday, it's overcast. Sun's trying to peek out. Good enough for me. I'm going to fire this here bad boy up and head out to the grocery store, and I'll be right back. All right, so how is everybody? Hope everybody's doing great. I know it's been a good while since you heard from me. I really appreciate those who emailed or who reached out to me just to check, make sure I was still alive and kicking on this side of the dirt, which, as you can see, I am. I moved. If you remember, for those of you who saw it, I had mentioned in a video that I was looking to move further out into the country, find more quietude. And that's exactly what I did. Things worked out great. It was a lot to move and to organize. And you might be able to tell I'm kind of tired, didn't get a lot of sleep last night, but I'm about where I need to be. Blew the shoulder out training. So I haven't been able to work out for a couple of months, which totally blows. I have started to do my cardio. I got on the treadmill a couple days ago, so I'm just starting out on my cardio. I'm going to do it religiously. Just enough is enough. It's not like I'm doing it every day. I'm doing it 2 times a week, first week, and we'll roll on. But everything's in motion. Now this place here, sitting on 16 acres, so it's very quiet. And the property is situated a decent bit back off of the road. So you have to come up a private drive to get to it. So it's pretty nice that I'm just back here away from everything. There's nothing near me at all, really. Not really. It's pretty private. I like it. It's nice and quiet. Also, I have this garage right here, which I've got quite a bit of stuff in here and still have room to spare. I have too much stuff in here right now. I have additional room for motorcycles in here, which is good because I have additional motorcycles. And I can keep all my bike stuff, all my tools and things in here, up here, and we can do all that in here. And then beneath the house in the basement it's really an enormous basement, and it's wide open down there. So I have 1/3 of the basement, not even a third, or probably a quarter. It's a large basement. A quarter of the basement, I have my weightlifting equipment set up in, and that's still in the process. I have rubber flooring down over there. I have more than I had at the other place because I have more room, more equipment than I had at the other place because I have more room. So I have a lot more room. I have things set up down there. I'm about 2/3 of the way set up down there to being complete. And then I'll be able to shoot videos down there, training stuff and all that crap. I have plenty of room for that. Then in another probably quarter of the basement, I have an area that's all my music stuff, my guitars and recording equipment and all this stuff. So I have a place for that. And then I have another spot that is, there's a very, very large wood stove down there, which back in the day they heated the whole home with that wood stove. Between that wood stove and a fireplace upstairs, they heated the whole home. So I have a spot over there where I can kick back and relax and make some videos there too. So it's a lot better situation to have more space to do things, more room to do things. So all that's great. And outside, it's pretty peaceful. I mean, I can still hear, if there's a Harley going up the road, and there's a lot of Harleys around here, if there's a Harley going up the road or whatever, I can still hear that. But it's not like I'm not hearing a lot of traffic going by. I don't have to hear, cars and trucks and all this racket. I'll still hear a Harley occasionally or something like that, or something if it's really, really loud, something that travels and you can hear it, So it's not like I'm like crazy isolated, but the nearest human being, or human dwelling is pretty good ways away, pretty situated away from everything. So I'm loving that. What else is going on? That's about what's going on. But I blew the shoulder out right about the time of my move, so that made it really a lot more difficult for me to get everything done that I needed to get done. And I had good brothers volunteering to help me, but I'm kind of weird about that. I'm not, to be quite honest, I'm not used to a lot of people helping me out, so I don't, I don't take people up on that kind of thing. I just figure, I can do it myself. So I probably should, occasionally, but I've never been really good at that, accepting help. Anyhow, so I got it done, moved in here. Been here now since, I actually have been here since I think about March 15th. I moved in here around then, but I wasn't actually living here yet. I was back and forth between two places. And then by April, I was in here full-time living here. So that's what's been going on. I have, what do I got going on? I'm kind of run down. I should have probably had some caffeine before I made this fucking video. But it is what it is. Everything's not always an ideal situation, and I'm old. And I haven't been training, so that really affects, feel a lot better when I'm in shape, training, working out, all that bullshit. I have also, on Spotify, anybody that's interested, I have a podcast. I started a podcast, and I think there are 3 or 4 episodes up so far. I actually have been staying on task and putting them up fairly regularly. And of course, it's under my name. If you search for my name, you'll find it. It's not, it's nothing about fitness or any of that at this point. It's all about motorcycles and riding and the American biker lifestyle, and old school compared or versus new school. But I don't mean versus as in they're at odds with each other necessarily, but they're definitely different. So some of those things, I think it's coming along pretty cool. It's pretty neat. The only reason I did it is because, I was on there. I finally have a smartphone now. First smartphone I've ever had. I don't love it. It's an electronic dog collar, like I've always said. And if you think that it's not, you're entitled to your own beliefs, but you're wrong. But you're entitled to be wrong. And I've never liked them. I had this flip phone forever, and it took a great deal of abuse, and it busted apart several times and fell off balconies and every other thing, and I put it back together, and it worked just fine. It was almost indestructible. And it just was a cheap-ass phone that I probably paid 20-some bucks for when I first got it, and it always did what I needed it to do in a phone. But unfortunately, the technology for that phone was like 3G or 2G or who knows what. So finally, when the 5G became more predominant, they kept texting me, telling me, you're going to have to upgrade your phone. Your service will not work any longer after this particular date, which it still worked fine. And then what they did, they would just interrupt it so that every time, and they did that, so that every time I would go to make a phone call, it would redirect my call to this recorded message. You need to upgrade your phone, and blah, blah, blah. Go to www. And I had to let this message play through so that I could make another phone call. Then I could resume making phone calls with it anyway. It's just a pain in the ass. And then finally, one day it just quit working, so I had to get this so-called smartphone. But they have something to kind of catch everybody's attention. And for me, this fucking phone, because I can very conveniently and effortlessly control all my musical devices now. So I've got these Bluetooth speakers that are enormous, they're huge, and they have a handle on them, they're very heavy. You can theoretically carry them around. You can move it, you're not going to be walking around with it, and you can move it and take it places. it runs like 11 hours of full charge of this NiCad battery that's inside of it, I guess, supposedly. I keep it plugged in. They're just plugged in. I got one out here on top of my toolbox, and I have one in the house. And the cool thing is they hook to the phone, so I can play whatever I want from the phone. It'll just play through the speakers. I can control it like that. I can pair them together, all kinds of shit. So for me, that's kind of cool. You know, nonetheless, it's still the phone. That phone still is what it is. It's still you know, an information gathering device, and it's still you're walking around with a GPS, a monitor, basically. You know, like a convict. You have like a monitor on your, instead of having it on your ankle, you've got it in your hip pocket or on your side or wherever. You know. What else is happening? I don't know. That reminds me, I got to pay that phone bill today. It's due tomorrow, so I got to pay that shit. And then the reason that I haven't been on the internet, or as far as haven't been able to make any videos, is because they don't have any internet service. There's no provider around here that has service. Nobody provides service here. So finally, 2 weeks ago, T-Mobile expanded their coverage so that I could get it here. It just happened to be they expanded their coverage. That made it possible that I could get it here. So I got that, and I'm not going to say so far that I think it's the fastest, greatest, you know, but I'll tell you what, it beats satellite shit, and that was my only alternative if I wanted internet. And that stuff, I've had it previously once years ago. I know how bad it is and how long it takes to upload anything, a video or something with that crap. So, you know, I'm out here in the rural Pennsylvania, and I have, you know, the internet service that I have now through T-Mobile. It's cheap, $50 a month. It's unlimited, and it does blink out for a moment here and there sometimes, but it's pretty damn good. You know, I can't really complain for where I'm at in this, well, somewhat or semi-remote area. But I only have had that for about a week. So that's why I haven't been able to post any videos. You know, the podcast bullshit, I could do it on my phone. So I've got that going on. And then I have the Patreon, which I haven't put any additional videos there yet because I have a couple, but same reason YouTube, because I haven't had the internet, I haven't had the broadband bandwidth to be able to do it. But now I'm going to be on top of all that shit. I'm going to get some videos up, and you know, the podcast is going to continue because it's just fun. It's something to bullshit around with. The only reason I did the podcast, like I started to say, is I'm looking at all this cool shit, and I'm looking at these podcasts. I'm listening to these podcasts and shit through my speakers, you know, all with the phone, which is awesome. And I couldn't find a decent motorcycle-oriented, Harley-Davidson-oriented, biker type of lifestyle podcast. You know, there's one or two that I think are okay, that are okay, but for what exactly I was looking for, the niche I was looking for, nothing seemed to fill that. In fact, you know, some of these dudes are knuckleheads. You know what I mean? Goofballs, but, you know, not like I want to talk about anybody, but now there are a couple guys that are cool that are, you know, their podcasts are pretty neat, but they cover more aspects of the biker world that I'm not really interested in. You know, like a lot of the bad shit going on, and you know, this club's at odds with that club, and there was a shooting here, and there was this. That's not, you know what I mean? You know, I want to try to surround myself with as much positivity as possible. I acknowledge these things go on and exist and all that shit, but it's not part of my world today. So, I don't know. So my podcast is not about that kind of stuff. My podcast is about just, from my perspective, how things have changed from when I started riding like 40 years ago. You know. Oh boy. And the Patreon, I'll get another video of that up sometime today or this evening. The Patreon thing, the point with that is I can talk about stuff that I don't talk about on YouTube, and that I have no interest in trying to talk about on YouTube. For similar reasons, as these podcast things, wasn't really satisfied with what was out there in the kind of the niche I was looking to fill. So I made my own podcast, fuck it. And it's a similar thing, like you talk about anabolics or any of these, any gear or any of that kind of chemistry or any of that bullshit, right? Which, believe me, that's only one slice of the pie. One piece of the equation, no matter what level you're at. Okay? And I know people are out there right now going, oh, it's bullshit, it's all about... Well, that's because people have these diminished expectations today, in today's world. They don't think anything's possible. So you have basically kids that as soon as they walk in the gym or as soon as they start to lift weights, they want to know about gear because they want to know all about it. Whatever it is, I don't know. They don't need to be messing with that shit. You can build a hell of a physique. Why not wait and see what you can accomplish on your own? But for you to do it, you need all the other slices of the pie, right? Your nutrition needs to be correct. You need to understand what your body needs and why it needs it and how it works and what you eat and what your body does with that. And then you need the experience of applying this and seeing how you react, how learning your own physiology more or less. Yeah. You learn the basic framework, and then when you apply it, you find out there are many different strategies. There's numerous ways to do things, but there's going to be one way that's going to be more ideal for you, the individual, as opposed to another dozen ways. So all that just comes with the doing of it rather than the talking about it. And there's so much drug talk and gear talk and all this crap on YouTube now that you have these, there's nothing wrong. I was a little pencil neck when I started out, but you have dudes that are sub 200 pounders, I mean like by a long shot, but yet they're of reasonable height. I mean, it's not like they're, on the shorter side of things, and they're weighing $170 soaking wet or something, and they're not particularly impressive looking. They're not like, it's not like they're some kind of totally shredded up beast or anything like that. And they are positioning themselves, or basically, whether they say it or not, they're presenting themselves as some kind of authority or expert, talking about every compound that's anybody's ever even imagined. And they make video after video about it. Well, they just want to make that money. They want your views. They want people's views, obviously. And all I can say is for those out there that think that the gear is the be-all, end-all, and that it's a magic bullet and that's all you need, that it can make anybody into a Leviathan, all you got to do is look at some of these guys. Look at them. Either they don't partake at all, which if they don't, how the fuck do they know anything? That's the guy you want to take advice from. That's the guy you want to trust with your health. And that's what you're doing. If you follow any of the information that these dudes are putting out there, or the shit doesn't work at all, contrary to what people think, and by itself without all the other pieces of the pie, you see what they look like. They look like shit. So I don't want to do that, corrupt my channel with talking about that bullshit, and then it's available to any kid that just wants to rummage through a collection of videos on a topic and just go through them and just look at whatever he wants, and then they're going to see whatever I say anyway, and they're going to say, oh, well, obviously everybody lies. Why does everybody lie? What fucking world? What happened to you that you think that? Everybody lies about it. Nobody will tell you the truth. So then they're going to multiply it 2 or 3 times, whatever you say anyway, right? So what's the point in it? Why? Why even talk about it and discuss it? Why? Why share what my experiences have been? And in the day, I was as huge and as muscular as anybody has been. In my day, I was right there, So, I know some things. I know what I did. I know how I did. Every aspect of it. So all the stuff I talk about here, all the nutrition and the training and all that shit is imperative. You have to have those things in place to be successful at all, to be successful with the hormones that your body already produces. You need these things in place. And then, even if you were going to go down that road with the gear, even if you already know you're going to do that, if that's the case and you're committed, that's what you're going to do, you're going to have greater success the longer you train as a natural, and the closer you get to maxing out your natural potential, which takes a long time. When these guys hit these ruts in the road or these huge plateaus that they can't get around, and they figure, oh, I'm maxed out now. You're probably not. You're probably not. You're throwing in your hand too easily. So you have to figure all these things out, because those things are still going to happen. If you jump on gear, eventually those things are still going to happen. Unless you're one of these dudes that's just going to be happy, like blowing his organs up with a whole bunch of trash gear, which most people do, and gaining a mediocre amount of muscle out of it. It doesn't make any sense. So I mean, in that respect, it's good to know, decent, solid information too. But brothers and sisters, if you can't sit down and do it as a natural and get pretty much along the way to where you're heading, and learn your nutrition and learn how your body works and responds to different things and learn your training and all this stuff, if you can't do those things, just taking that magic bullet that you think is out there, that's not gonna get you where, you're gonna get mediocre results out of it. And the screwed up thing is, it's also going to dampen your potential for gaining additional muscle down the road. So, and again, I don't need to talk about this on here, so I don't care if you believe, disbelieve, whatever, I don't give a fuck. Why would I? But on that Patreon shit, that's where I'll talk about all that shit. I'll talk about my experiences with it. So if I do things a little bit differently, if I construct cycles, or did in the day, it's not necessary today, because my cycles today would consist of just basically this TRT, literally TRT. I know nobody believes that. I'm in shit shape right now. Fuck do I need a bunch of tests for to be this big? Come on, man. But other aspects of my quality of life, a testosterone replacement dosage deals with. And I have my own way of doing that too. Now I still, the delivery mechanism, or the schedule of how frequently I administer with that is like once every 15 days, once every 14 days. So it's not, but on the Patreon, I'll talk about everything in various videos. How I actually used to sit down on paper and figure out what I needed and how much I needed and when to administer and the frequency and everything else, so I could get up above that blood threshold, that blood plasma threshold quickly enough, and then stay up there, because that's where everything happens. And I can figure all that out on graph paper. So I explained all that. I already have that video up. I don't know if it makes any sense to everybody, but and you can choose to say, oh, that's not for me, fuck that, I don't even need to know that. It's great. But I just wanted to put something to make it less accessible, less opportunity, diminish the amount of just kids that are going to just recklessly see it. And everybody, YouTube, everybody can see it for free. All they're going to do is say, oh, that's bullshit, that's a lie, that can't, Really? All right, well, then, spare me that shit. I'm not going to put it out there. I'll put it on the Patreon. So that's what the Patreon's for, man. Talk about that shit over there, because there's a lot of bad information. Not only misinformation, but bad, reckless, and potentially harmful, if you were to take it up and follow it, information on YouTube. Too much of it. Tons of it. And again, it's just for the views. It's just like these fucking cocksuckers that make videos just slagging people. Just picking somebody that's got, an audience and just ripping them to shreds, talking shit about them, just creating a whole fantasy world that's not even grounded in one tiny, teeny shred of reality, just creating a whole fantasy world. And into their little fantasy game, like they're obsessed with them because it gets views for them. That's how desperate and hungry these poor sons of bitches are. Anyway, now you know how I feel about it, but I think you've always known. That's what the Patreon is. And I talk about other shit too. I had COVID, like fucking serious bad, several months back now. And I was like fucked up, and I used ivermectin. And then again, people, misinformation and disinformation. Oh, what, a horse drug? Listen, if ivermectin would be as much of a horse drug, just this is neither here nor there in this video, relevant to this video, but ivermectin would be as much of a horse drug as would be penicillin, as would be amoxicillin, as would be testosterone, as would be decadurabolin, as would be equipoise, which, equipoise is a horse drug. Oh, Christ. But there are a multitude of drugs they're identical. They're manufactured by the same fucking companies and laboratories that are huge drugs that are prescribed to humans and have been for the longest time. And they're used and administered in the equestrian field as well. Anyway, so I thought that was very important because of the turnaround and how almost immediate it was. So I did post a video explaining that, man. And even show you what the real shit looks like. So that's there. If you're interested in that, you're welcome to come on over. You can communicate with me. You can ask questions, all that horse shit, and I'll try to make video responses. Like I said, I only have a few up because I just started it. I didn't even let anybody know really. I just mentioned in passing that I was probably going to do that. But now that I'm situated again and things are going to be rolling along, that's going to be a regular thing, all three of these things, the YouTube stuff, the Patreon, and the podcast, just different things. And this channel is pretty much just going to stay like it always has. There's going to be more training stuff. I'm going to finally get into like really high level conditioning. I'm not saying inhuman shit. I'm not saying like I'm going to compete in a bodybuilding show, but I'm going to get in really pretty sharp condition. And one thing that's really inspired me and motivated me a hell of a lot is Brother Aaron, brother that I've mentioned him previously, that I've been working with on his diet, nutrition, and all this stuff. Now he's doing all the actual work. I'm doing is, putting together a diet and explaining things to him, why this has this effect and how this works and all that. And he's trusting me and he's just doing it, but he's doing the work. He's the one that has the stick-to-itiveness, you know what I mean? The dogged determination to follow it through. And he fucking is on the money with the cardio, with the diet. He's lost, pretty much he's getting close to having lost 40 fucking pounds so far. And that diet, I don't know the exact date we started, I have to look it up, but it's been this year, 2022. So I think that's incredible progress. And as is always the case with me and working with people, he's taking in more food and eating more. He's eaten more and lost body fat. I mean, literally just turned his body into a fucking incinerator, and it works just ideal. Some people you get just best case scenario results, and some people you just get moderate results, and some people, they don't have that stick-to-itiveness, and that just simply means that they just don't want it like they thought they wanted it. Once they find out that it actually takes fucking work, it actually becomes a lifestyle. Even if you set a window from here to here, I'm going to see what I can do and get into shape. And this thing will morph more. I always say we should take it further than you want to take it. However lean like this brother wants to eventually be. And he's a big guy. I mean, he's carrying a lot of muscle. He's tall. He's a big guy. So I've always said that if he wants to end up walking around I don't know, 250-ish, you know. I would go and get even leaner than wherever he wants to be. You know what I mean? I would take it a little bit drastic, because then when you back up off of it a little bit and you morph into something that's more sustainable, you know, as an everyday diet, it's going to be a lot easier to maintain. You know, that to walk around, you know, just in a normal average day of your life with the physique that was your goal in the first place, if you go a little further initially. That's my belief, it's my experience, okay? So anyway, seeing him, the way he's gone after it, and this huge radical transformation he's already achieved, has just made me, you know, and we've trained together, and he trains hard, all the whole shit, man. He'll hang there with you, he trains hard, you know, so I figure, yeah, it's about time, I might as well get into shape. I'm getting old, I might as well get into really good shape. So that's what I'm doing. Anyway, that's where I've been, that's what I'm up to, you know. Have any questions, whatever, feel free to email, reach out, you know, I'll write you back. Most of the time I try to, unless an email falls through the cracks somewhere, I try to write everybody back. And you can go to any of these other things and check them out, and you could, you know, if there's something there that fits in that fucking space that you want to hear from me, then, you know, just ask me. So that's it for here. I'm going to go back in the house, and I think it's time to eat something again. I just came back from the store. It's been a pretty overcast day. Sun's trying to peek through. But I don't have any complaints, because yesterday was a fucking gorgeous day all day long. So that's it for me. You guys take care, man. I missed y'all. This will be a regular thing now again. I'll get it all fired up. I think you'll be surprised. I'm going to do a lot better to stay on point. Better than I have in years. Talk to you later.